I would like to respond to Sergei Bartulyov's invitation by identifying a number of themes that have struck me during the course of this session and in preparing myself for this session as well. I'm not sure they're going to be in a particularly coherent order. They're the order in which they occurred to me. The first thing I wanted to say was to pick up something from my own presentation, in fact. There are two particular technical difficulties that we not infrequently encounter at the finer scale end of remote sensing-based investigations of boreal ecosystems, and they are to do with a lack of sufficient resolution, spatial resolution and spectral resolution. And I think we know the technical answer in one case and we suspect the answer in another case. In the case of spatial resolution, I think we're already seeing that the use of drones, of unmanned autonomous vehicles, is giving us a new potential that even 5 years ago we didn't really understand that we possessed. And I think there is a great deal of advance that can be made using drone-based techniques. I suspect that those of us who are not currently using UAVs to fill in some gaps in the spatial resolution continuum are a little bit frightened of the technique. We think that there are probably some technical complexities that we are reluctant to engage with. That may be just me speaking, that may be just my reaction, but having started to engage with this a little bit myself rather than relying on colleagues to do this, I just want to be reassuring. It's not as bad as it looks. It's actually possible to get into the use of drone-based data collection and start to generate serious scientific results. The other theme is the theme of spectral resolution. Here, I think we suspect the answer is we need more hyperspectral data than we've got. We did have Hyperion data, that's now merely historical. I think there's still value to be squeezed out of the archive of Hyperion data, and I encourage us all to think about looking at that and to press for a successor to Hyperion. Meanwhile, we fill in with airborne and field-based hyperspectral data collection. And as a little plug for my project partners here, we have constructed a hyperspectral database of high latitude vegetation. Olga will tell me what its current status is in terms of being online and accessible. We're not quite there yet, but that's the intention. It will become a publicly accessible database. We'd love to see it enhanced. So that is there, or at least it's coming. Couple of other themes that have occurred to me. Again, this next one comes from my own research experience. It's a truism to say that so much of what we do in Earth observation depends on access to training data, the ability to tune up the models that we use to relate what's accessible from spaceborne data to what's present on the ground. We need more accessible study sites. The experience of my current project partners and myself is that it's patchy from this point of view. We are very well served by having access to the field stations that the Moscow State University has access to. The Interact program is potentially, and in some cases actually, a magnificent source of access to field data. Even that could work better than it does. So I think the more information we can exchange about with one another about access to workable field sites, the happier we'll all be. Third thing that was on my mind, wetlands. I'm picking this theme up quite strongly from what's been said today and yesterday, in fact. And it's not something that we've tried to work with so much ourselves. But I know from previous experience of projects that I've dipped into from time to time that there is a lot of potential in microwave data for studying wetlands, and I think we're not exploring that as vigorously as we might do. Fourth, I think I'm counting correctly. Fourth thing, I want to respond to what Kevin was telling us yesterday about the Sentinel program and Copernicus. To me, this is a new way of thinking about the provision of Earth observation data. I'm not sure if this is the official view of it, but this is the way it looks to me as a user, that the Sentinel program represents a kind of maturity in the provision of Earth observation, moving from a research technique to a set of operational opportunities as we see them, and we should be ready to capitalize on this. I think the question to Nikolai Shabanov this morning about what do we do when MODIS doesn't exist anymore, I think this feeds into the my thoughts about the way we think about the Sentinel program. I think it is intended that the Sentinel program should be, at least in part, an answer to that very question. And fifthly and lastly, the thing that I wanted to say about the way we've all responded to the theme of this roundtable and what's come before it about boreal ecosystems is we've nearly all talked about trees. And boreal ecosystems don't just consist of trees. There's the stuff that composes beyond the northern edge of that tundra vegetation. And there are, especially since we are coming back to my first point about spatial resolution, drones are giving us new tools which are better matched to an understanding of how tundra vegetation is composed than we've ever had access to before. And I think there are lots of exciting new opportunities coming there. I've played around with this a very little bit myself, looking at what kind of spatial resolution you can get in three-dimensional descriptions of tundra vegetation, and I think the match is really good. So I'd like to see us all doing more on tundra vegetation. Those are my thoughts.